direct from the web, it's Billy Masters Live. And now, please welcome your host, Billy Masters.
All right, hold on. Another show. Hey guys, welcome to Billy Masters Live. I have to look at what day. I don't know what day it is. Today is Thursday, July 2nd. Welcome to the show. I am, of course, your host, Billy Masters. We're in, I don't know how many weeks of quarantine it's been, 13, 14. I don't know. I've lost complete track of time. But I am in a bit of a quandary because after the show tonight, I have to pick up a friend at Boston's Logan Airport. Now, I am one of those people who does volunteer to pick people up at the airport and drop them off, but he's getting off a plane and he's going through an airport and he's already sent me, by the way, a screenshot of his COVID test. Of course, the test that really doesn't mean anything because nobody knows how to interpret the test. So I don't know. What I told him is that, we can wear masks in the car and keep the windows open. I don't know. What else do you do? So that's our plan. And then tomorrow, of course, I'm heading down to Provincetown to socially distance and not go to bars and not meet any men. So really, you may ask, what is the point to going to Provincetown? We'll find out. I think getting some sun, patronizing the restaurants that are open and the shops, and just sort of see what's happening. So next week I will have a report about Provincetown. Can I tell you, this is just a terrible way to start the show, but I am not enamored with the underwear I'm wearing right now. Now look, Billy Gilman, who doesn't even know me, is like, oh my God, he's talking about underwear. But I'm not so thrilled with it. I think while I'm talking Billy Gilman, I may change my underwear. So don't be offended if I'm looking down. Normally, I open with an amusing anecdote about, the past and some fabulous person I met. And I didn't do it today for two reasons. First off, because I ran out of time. And secondly, because I've got somebody on that I've never met before. This is maybe the first show that it's somebody who's, famous that everyone knows that I have never crossed paths with. So I have really an awful lot to ask him. And so really you don't need to know about me and my underwear. Oh, but if I were to change underwear, I would change into my favorite underwear. They don't sponsor us, but whatever. My Armani, the black Emporio Armani underwear. I really enjoy these. They breathe. I love it when my underwear breathes with me. All right. Anyway, enough about my underwear. Let's get to the show. Now, look, people are going to be starting commenting saying, well, show us the underwear. The underwear I have on, I don't like. If I take it off, I'll show you. Okay. Billy Gilman I first noticed Billy Gilman on the Jerry Lewis Telethon as like a little kid. And I thought, oh, he's a good little singer and he's a little kid. And look at how good how much good he's doing to help the fight for muscular dystrophy. He was a youth ambassador. He was really articulate. And I just always thought, okay, what a lovely young man. I don't know. I think I missed a couple of telethons. And then all of a sudden he showed up and, this is what he looked like as a little kid. Watch, I'm going to probably get the wrong picture. Okay, I think this is, no, I don't know which picture this is. All right, what is this? All right, that's little kid. That's little kid Billy. And watch, he's probably looking, saying, that's not little kid. I'm like 12 there. Okay, but then all of a sudden I come back a few years later and he's like this hot guy. So I don't really know where I missed him. But what I always loved is that he was always sincere. He was always pleasant. He was always articulate. And it also seemed to me that Jerry Lewis loved him. And Jerry Lewis didn't love a lot of people. So I just found one introduction. I should have made a montage, but I didn't. This is just one introduction because why should I introduce Billy Gilman when Jerry Lewis can do it for me? So here we go.
I have the extreme pleasure at this time to introduce a young man who has been part and parcel of this telethon for so many years, and each year he comes to me and he appears refreshed, like he'd never been out in the open. It's just a good-looking, wonderful performer who I'm thrilled to introduce to you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Billy Gilman.
And so I will introduce Billy Gilman as well. Hey, Billy.
That is something I've never seen before. That's very interesting. I don't remember you know.
Really?
Yeah, you don't remember those things as you go down, as you live life. You forget certain things. That was very nice. Actually, funny thing about Jerry, as it makes sense for what you're talking about. I did a run in Vegas April before the August that he passed away, and my show was the last thing he saw before he really fell ill. So
really,
yeah, he was a larger than life pal, that's for sure. You know, he, like you said, you either were on his team or you were off the team. No qualms.
How did you get involved with the telethon?
So I originally was just a performer because my single had traction on the charts and all of that. So I think the song I did the very first time, it was #3 on the chart. So they put the artists that are doing well or whatever on. Well, I got so wrapped up in the patients, the kids that we were raising funds for. It was something that really gravitated towards my heart. And that the same year, I was on Larry King, and who I love, and he's such a great friend. He's going to be a great friend of mine. I was on his show, and if you're not a big star, you have to pair up with another guest. You don't get the full hour. Right. So I was on with another child prodigy. His name was Matty Stepanek, and he was a poet who went to #1.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Billy, it's funny saying my name, I must say. Billy, yes, Billy.
It's Billy squared today.
Billy squared. So I went to Sony, and I sat at the table and I said, I know we're about to do my next record. I don't want it to be a record filled with just singles. I want it to mean something. And I said, I found this kid that you put me on Larry King with, and he's astounding. We need to put his poems to music. And through the good fight, they gave me the green light to do the project. He had muscular dystrophy. Which
doesn't happen to everybody, by the way. You have to have really some conviction and also some proven track record for them to allow you to do that.
Absolutely. And I just was swallowing hard, and I'm like, this has got to happen. I don't care what they say, and hey, if they said no, I would have really thrown away the songs that they were going to have me record. I would have put them in a garbage can. You know what I mean? Ultimately, if I'm a singer that if I don't believe it, it doesn't sound good. So I can't fake it, so they would have known. And I'm glad that they allowed me to do that, because that's really when the whole MDA life started.
And you were how old at that time?
So I was a performer the very first time. I was 13. This was 2 years after that. So
right, that's still pretty young to really go up against a record label. George Michael tried to go up against a record label and lost at like 35.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Maybe they were afraid
liked you a little more.
Say. I don't know, but yeah, I was very fortunate that happened.
And then I remember did he pass away? I believe. Yeah. Yes, because I remember you did a tribute to him on one of the telethons as well.
Correct.
Just after he died, and they interspersed it with videos of him reading his poems. And the other one that I used to always see you with, the other young person, was Abby, little Abby.
Wow, you are a fan of this telethon, you've done your homework. One of the two.
All right. Can I just tell you, I do my homework, but I would sit for the entire telethon. If I didn't watch all the time, I taped, because the gems of the telethon were where you least expected it, whether it was something going wrong. Right? Yeah. Either something going wrong and Jerry screaming, or a really great performance. It could go either way. And I loved it all. And but I remember you started doing more and more. And at a certain point, you were like a co-host for a good chunk of it. But tell me about Abby.
Well, Abby, I mean, she was every case that you see, whether it be whatever. I mean, there's 40 plus diseases that are under the umbrella of the Neuromuscular Association, the MDA. And all the cases that you meet, you fall in love with, because what they go through every day just to be able to stand or breathe or function, it's a fight that I will never know. And hopefully my family will never know, fortunately, but it's there and it's a real thing. So her case was a little different because she was a lot of the kids that go on the telethon are so primed with the producers, with the directors, like 6 months in. So they are totally comfortable in front of the camera. It's not like, okay, you're on, and they startle, you know. She just was ready to go. When the lights would come on, she'd sing. She was doing Wicked. You may say if I've been changed for the better. Gets right out there and sings. Like, she was just remarkable. So naturally, she was a singer. I took a liking to her right away. And the powers that be suggested that we do a duet. And I was a little nervous because she, you know, that was her first time performing, you know, with the orchestra, which is like a 30-piece orchestra. Timing could really be an interesting thing.
Live.
And live, and very live, you know, no lip syncing. Very. But she was a trooper, and, you know, we still talk. She's in college, and she's just doing so wonderful.
She's doing well.
She's doing wonderful, and she has remarkable parents that let her do her thing, and she's great.
That's one of the things I liked about the telethon, was that as somebody who, you know, I didn't follow muscular dystrophy, I didn't follow up with these people, but when Jerry would spotlight them year after year, I grew to remember, oh, there's little Abby. What's she going to sing this year? You know, and there's Billy Gilman. And it really did seem to me like a family atmosphere.
Oh, it was.
Is that what it was?
Yeah. And then they had this swift idea. You know, it was such an American tradition. It's like, you know, trying to reinvent Broadway. No, Broadway works because
you don't have to reinvent it.
You don't have to. It's Broadway. It's an American tradition. It will never go away. They tried to make the telethon a fad and do like a condensed 3-version award show kind of thing. And it was odd, and it didn't work because the heart wasn't there anymore. So once Jerry kind of exited and president,
or was pushed out.
Pushed out. You know, it just changed, and I wasn't all for it, but I still quietly raised money for them, you know.
Not only that, but I think, if I'm not mistaken, what the very first one after Jerry was really kind of dumped by them, I remember you and Nigel Lithgow specifically invoked his name, and you were the only two on that telecast that I remember who actually paid tribute to the person who created the whole thing. And that spoke a lot to both of your characters, because, you know, you're there under a different regime. You got to play by their rules, but in your heart, obviously, you want to do what you feel is right.
You have to. Not a good faker. And I've done this for so long now that it's just hard for me to read between the bullshit. You know what I mean? I have a low tolerance for that. And I don't know if it was intuitively or instilled in me as a child. I have this gift, but I just don't have time for it. And I can really sense it a lot. And it just bothers me. And it bothered me that someone that started this with Dean Martin, I mean, talk about American traditions, in 1955, you know, just to execute it the way they did was very poorly done. But it happens, and we move forward. You know,
there was criticism, you know, at a certain point about Jerry, that, you know, it was almost exploiting some of the children, that it wasn't. I mean, I always looked at it as very uplifting, but some people didn't want to see children who were sick and didn't want to know the reality of the disease, and they felt it was exploitive. But I don't think anybody was forced to do anything. They wanted to tell their stories.
It's the same people that don't understand why it's safe and positive to wear a mask.
Yeah, right. No, you're probably right. And I you know, and also I think it's an interesting dichotomy that, you know, you were so young and Jerry at that point was so old and really being pushed out. And yet the two of you connected, and you had decades between you.
I think it's just a heart link, you know, if there's ever such a word. You know, I think he knew that I respected, I didn't want to overstep. I came in with a general sense of, this is bigger than all of us. It's not a point to sell a single on a telethon and sell 1 million copies. It's to save lives. And, you know, I don't think many people fall into that, you know, don't understand it at the time, because 90% of the people that come on the telethon are whisked into a dressing room. You're supposed to say a few words, and then you're supposed to sing a song, and that's it. So I get it, you know, but luckily I had a little bit more time to let the juices marinate and really fall in love with the organization and Jerry. And I think he grabbed that quickly.
But was it something that would help sell records? I mean,
Oh,
any exposure does, I'm sure.
absolutely. One of the songs was charting well, called "Hey Little Susie," not the 50 song.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, it does help. I mean, at the end of the day, the telethon at hour 19:20, towards the end, maybe 16 to 20, you would average 5 to 10 million. So
Yeah.
I mean, they were averaging big numbers,
So
yeah.
really, everybody got something out of it. The artists who appeared weren't paid necessarily, but they got exposure. They got to perform, which they love to perform, and they helped a charity.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't see fault in any of that.
No, I don't either. One of the people who I think was kind of like a ringleader for all of you there. We have a special guest. Debbie Williams is here.
Oh, no. What the hell are you doing?
Debbie and I go back almost as far as you go back.
Hi,
Hey, Debs.
Hi.
It has been a long time. We haven't been in the same room for a long time.
I love listening to both of your accents.
Well, Billy, you're in Rhode Island right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm in Boston right now. So, okay. So we're both in New England.
Everybody, see, you're lucky. See, where I come from, I lived in Nashville for 10 years. Boy, that was a trip with this accent.
Yeah, I bet.
How's your mother? They're like, what is that? What's a mother?
Debbie, so let me ask Debbie. Debbie, you got involved with the telethon. When? How long ago?
Oh my God. Okay. 1986.
Oh my God. So you did like 25 of them?
I did 25 years. And I got very close to JL. We had a really good relationship. It was a good relationship, and he used to do, when we first started, he did, the year they wanted me to be with him, I'll tell you this funny story. The year they wanted me to be with JL, I thought I was going to be with Ed. And so Paul Miller was the director, and Paul Miller called me and he says, we want you to be with Jerry. And I'm like, and I had been on the show a few years before doing other things. And I went, no, I'm supposed to be with Ed. And he goes, no, we want you to be with Jerry. And I went, I don't want to be with Jerry.
Right.
You're going to be with Jerry. And I was like, okay. And
I said the same thing the very first time. I'm like, no.
Exactly, Billy. Exactly. So I was with him. And then he said to me after the show, he says, I don't want to ever do this without you. And I thought, that's pretty old. This won't go on for long, 25 years later.
And I remember those last few years. Well, I remember the year when you were in the scooter, which of course was my favorite year.
No, it's not my favorite year.
Oh, the videos of you chasing him around the stage.
Awful. It's awful.
But I've saved clips. I'm not in LA or I'd have access to them. But what I remember, Debbie, and this is even before I met you, you were the only person that he would actually listen to, that you could tell him something and he's like, she said do this, so I'm doing it. And that's got to be trust, because Jerry didn't listen to a lot of people.
We had a little bond there, and we had an agreement, and it was total trust. He trusted me. If I looked at him and gave him a look, like my mother would give me if she was kind of mad at me. And so it got to the end. Towards the end, we came up with a system where he had a little earbud in his ear, and I could
like I have right here.
just like you have. And so I could talk to him through that. These were the last couple years that he was on the telethon, which made it so much easier, because he'd sometimes sit there and kind of like be watching the Action Club number, and I'd go, Jerry, sit up. Look like you're awake.
That's what was going on. He'd go.
Right. Where is she? So, we had an agreement. It worked out. It was a good thing. We had a really great relationship, and he made me laugh. If I could tell you some of the things he said about the acts when they were on.
Oh.
And only I heard it.
Right.
I wish it was gold. It was the best. I would stand there by his podium cracking up all the time. He had the ones he liked, and then some not so much.
Yeah.
And so I got
Well,
to
it seemed to me the favorites were the Norm Crosbys, Maureen McGovern, Charo, although when she went to sit in his lap, not so thrilled. Because I do remember that one too. But there were right. But it seems the ones that came back and they were regulars.
They were regulars, yeah.
And he would also build them up. Like he'd say, this is the hottest comic in the world. And Norm Crosby's coming out. And you'd say, well, but that's Jerry came from that time of show business where you really built up your friends.
Right. But as Billy said, you know, and which was true, we were a little family. And we came together every year, as well as the MBA families. All of a sudden, you know, they would come back. And so we got to see the kids grow. We just did a reunion recently on Zoom with a lot of the MBA people.
Right.
And it was, you know, like we were two different factions. We were production and we were MDA. But then we all kind of came together. So we had a little reunion. Billy was on it. We had a lot of people. And it was just fun. I miss that. I miss going to Vegas. Here's everybody. We'd see each other in the hotel running around.
And you work nonstop.
Yeah, you know, like in the office, those, you know, I was always up there 2 weeks. In the office, it wasn't much. And we were putting it together and putting the board together and, you know, getting everything organized. And it was those last 3-4 days where we worked around the clock without sleep. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you met Billy? Not Billy, not me.
Yes.
Not Gilman related either. It's going to surprise you.
I do perfectly. We were doing Academy of Country Music at the Universal Amphitheater when it existed.
Oh, I used to love going there.
Me too. I really liked that venue.
It was a great venue.
Yeah, it was. And so, you know, you've got your rundown and you see the names and some of them you know and some of them you don't. But, you know, this person's going to be coming to left or right or whatever. So I got this name, Billy Gilman. Nobody had told me he was a child. And so when they brought him back, he was 11 years old. So they brought him to the wing, and here's this little guy, and he was with Angela, his singing teacher, right? And so he was with Angela, so I was talking to her, and he seemed for an 11-year-old, but, you know, performing kids, very confident, not really scared. And who were you singing with, Billy?
Yeah.
Charlie Daniels?
No.
Big guy.
Ray Benson.
Okay, so
that's a rewind.
Yeah,
they were.
You didn't know you were on a quiz show.
No, it's just about me.
Who were you performing with when you were 11 years old? And so I'm standing there with him, and all of a sudden they finish this song and they introduce Billy Gilman. Billy goes out on stage. We don't know him. We don't know we've never heard him or anything.
Right.
He goes out. He starts singing with that little voice of his that just kind of went through the amphitheater. And everybody was like, holy Toledo, who is this kid? You know, and it was like a moment. And Angela was back with me. She was so nervous. But he went out there, took over the stage. It was amazing. I mean, all of a sudden you went, okay, who's this kid? That was the first time I met Billy, right?
That's it.
A long time ago.
So Debbie, now you've worked with so many people. Do you know, famous people who are great performers? And as we know, a lot of great performers, some have it on stage and some don't. It's all in the studio. When you met Billy backstage, did you think to yourself, oh, this kid has it? Or was it not until he hit that stage?
Not until he hit that stage. I had no clue who this kid was. So when he hit that stage, and in the first instant, there was no hesitation in him. This little guy, and he was little. I'm little, but he was littler than me. So he headed out there and with all this confidence, and you just went, okay, all right, we're going to hear from him again. And then it was a few years before you were on telethon, right, Billy?
It was 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then once he got on telethon, then we saw each other every year, and that was great.
Billy, what do you remember about working with Debbie? Because you've worked with a lot of stage managers and a lot of backstage people. Was there something about her that stuck out to you?
she just had this connection like Angela. I mean, there are a few people that just come in and get it. And with, there aren't many people when you start to really work with someone, it could be just an eye, a glance with an eye, and you know exactly what they're thinking at exactly that moment because you're thinking it too. She made me feel so comfortable. I never forgot that. And I never forgot doing the show that I did, that award show. And then all of a sudden I hit the CBS studio lot. That's where I first started working on the telethon at the back lot at CBS. And she's there with the headset and I go, wait a minute. And she goes, wait a minute. And we really bonded. It very, very close. Even, I mean, I was just in Boston doing a concert and her daughter just came to the show.
Yep.
I just always felt safe with Deb. And I think that is so important for someone my age at that point. To feel that, and you only give your best when you feel comfortable as a young person. So
that's the trick, like I think in my job, I've had so many nervous people standing back of the wing, some of them shaking, and God knows what show. And the one thing that I always knew, I was a performer when I was young, so I knew this, that my presence there and how I treated them in that moment, they're so nervous before they go out, had an affect on them once they go out. And so I hope that everybody that ever came in my wing felt that comfort, because I think that performers need that so much. And some people forget that,
I'm sure they did, believe me.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think it's reading people, because there are some performers that you can tell don't even go up to them because they need to center themselves, or some that just want that kind word, it's a great audience or something,
You have to know that space when they go on, and then if they performed when they come off.
Right.
There was a moment once with Liza Minnelli that she had been on the Oscars and she had performed, and I know, Billy, you know her. And so it was a strenuous number, strenuous. And we had rehearsed it many times. So when she came off, a lot of performers, when they come off, they bend over, there's that going on, and so you leave them in that moment. Don't just leave them there for that moment. Let them have that moment when they first come off. So this other stage manager that I won't even say went up to her, was going to ask her a question about something that was going on. Oh my God. She ripped him one. I mean, it was like I was standing outside going, "Oh, don't do that," and he did. And boy, did she go off. Adrenaline is like up here when they come off stage, and so you just don't want to.
Well, with me too. Yeah.
Face, So
yeah,
those are the kind of things you kind of have to know.
Before I let you go, Debbie, I just want to ask, since I've got you here, there have been lots of reports that Jerry Lewis had a homophobic side or not a homophobic side. Was it a homophobic side, or was it directed towards specific people? Like, I like this person, not that person. It doesn't matter if he's gay or not.
No, you know what? I never got that out of him in any way. Here's what I know about Jerry and about a lot of old performers. There was a time, and I always say this to people because working around the telethon, I was working with so many people that had been around for so long. They grew up in a different time.
Right.
Where he called me Ava Braun. Like
I remember that. I have that tape.
Name, like, this is not funny. That was a woman with Hitler, a Nazi.
Right.
But,
well, there were a lot of Nazi jokes.
Yes, a lot of Nazi jokes. So there was a time when I guess those were funny.
Nazi jokes were good, yeah.
Yes. And so I always look at him and a lot of the older performers that I worked with, that they grew up in a different time. So certain things, like if he made a gay joke or something, which he did once in the first 2 minutes of the show.
Yes.
When he did those things, it wasn't because he was homophobic, right, Billy?
It was like all in. It's to me, it's comparing it to like Archie, but All in the Family kind of.
It was shtick. It's like your old uncle, my father.
Not funny, but it's shtick nonetheless.
Right.
It is, and they didn't, like saying Frito Bandito, or it wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't such a PC time. We have changed, we have evolved a little bit, but those people, the older performers were still kind of in that time. So I never, ever thought of him as homophobic. Not at all. Did you, Billy? No.
Well, I never, and he was still alive when I, said hello to the world again in the new reel me.
Yeah.
And I got a phone call from him. So,
but you know what, Billy Masters,
Yes.
it's show business,
Yeah, right.
and in show business, and I grew up in the ice shows, and so in the 50s and 60s, the show was full of gay men.
Right.
And it was just there. One of them said to me, Gordon, who was in his 80s, he said, "When did you discover that so many of the guys in the show were gay?" I said, "Never." He said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Because I always knew. I
showed up and that was it, right?
I just there were men, there were women, there were gay people. Those people could not be outed in the regular world at that time in the 50s and 60s, but in the show, it was a totally acceptable thing. So, show business it accepts everybody, and so in Jerry's defense, I never felt that ever.
Yeah, I have to defend him on that. Absolutely, Deb. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, Debbie, I want to thank you for coming on.
What a
It was
treat.
great to see
It's
you.
glad to see you, Billy.
And we'll talk soon, obviously. Take
All
care,
right, Billy.
sweetheart. Bye-bye.
Right. Oh, that was
Billy, that's what this show's like. People just come and go. I haven't talked to you about any music stuff because I'm going to do that when I have you and Sam Harris here. But let me just ask you before we wrap with the Jerry Lewis stuff. Do you still feel that the legacy that he had with the telethon continues? Because now we don't really have it anymore.
I think, unfortunately, two sides to that. I think.
Yeah.
One, we have a wonderful thing called YouTube. Everything's on there.
Thank God.
It's archived, so people can find it and go back and remember. And that, you see some of the views. It's like 10 million. So people are watching. Right. And unfortunately, we live in a world where 15-second TikToks and then you're on to the next thing. It's so fast and things can be forgotten so quickly. But people do still come up to me and say it. People even younger than me are saying, "We saw this song. We saw when you sang 'What a Wonderful World' on the." Mm-hmm. So people still remember it, and it's my job. It's people's jobs going forward too. Like Michael Bublé created a whole new wavelength for the younger crowds to remember the Great American Songbook.
Absolutely.
So I think it's all our duties to carry it through as best as we can. It's part of my job anyway, in some small way.
That's great. Billy, thank you for being on. Hang out. We're going to bring you back with Sam, but thank you so much for this so far.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Are you kidding? This is great.
Hang out. Okay. My next guest now, God, I go back so far with Sam Harris, and I have loved Sam Harris before I met him. I loved him more after I met him. Of course, at that point he was taken, but he is one of the most talented men in the world. He acts, he sings, he writes, and now he's written a fictional book. Oh God, where's the picture? I've got the picture here. Hold on, it's right here. Okay, there it is. There it is. The Substance of All Things is his first fictional novel, and I'm so thrilled to have Sam Harris here. I know, try and stay awake, Sam. I'm sorry.
Hi, Billy. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I know more. I know everything that I could have ever needed to know about the Jerry Lewis telethon.
Did you ever appear on a telethon?
I thought I did, but as I listened to this, I don't think I did.
All right.
No, I don't did. I think I appeared on other telethons. Maybe I don't know. I
know
nothing.
I know. If I don't know if you did, then there's no hope.
Apparently, because you're like the number one. You're the person who watched it 24 hours ago.
Apparently I did, and I could let's go to the clip. First off, how are you doing in quarantine? We had you on like the second or third show in April or March even. I think you had just gotten the new puppy.
Oh yes, we had just gotten the new puppy.
How is that working out? Let's go to there.
It's a dream because it's this new wonderful companion,
right? A pug.
A pug. His name is Kevin. He's adorable. He's hysterical. But you know, we're dealing with the potty training and the chewing. He ate an entire window frame the other day.
No.
And the pee smell. I don't mind the pooping so much because you can find it, you can pick it up.
Yeah.
It's the pee smell. So we had a trainer session the other day.
Yeah.
And we learned a lot and we're getting better. But we have to get him trained fast because we have a house sitter coming in 3 weeks when we go away on vacation. So we're really kind of putting the pedal to the puppy metal.
Are you still going on? You were going to like some camping or something.
We're going to Montana.
Montana, yeah. Why are you going to Montana?
Live on a ranch. We're going to drive.
Oh
And we're
my
going to live on a ranch, and we're going to go horseback riding and river rafting. And
how long are you going to be?
Well, we're driving for 2 days, staying for 10 days, and then driving back 2 days.
And let me just show the family. This is you and Cooper and Deanna.
Yeah, look at that.
That's a cute picture. Is he taller than you, or is he just standing on something?
He's not taller than me yet, but he will be. I would say he's 12. I would say by the time he's 15, he's going to be definitely taller than me.
He's 12. See, he's around the age that Billy Gilman was talking about going on telethons, and you were also performing very young.
Let me just tell you that, and we'll talk about this when Billy comes back on. Yeah, but I've known Billy since he was that little child.
Really?
Maybe not 12, but around.
And did you identify with him because you had gone through this path?
Well, I was
in a different way.
When I had national attention, he was a baby, but we knew each other through Liza, and
as all people do.
We'll get to that. Anyway.
Yeah. But no, could you see now when you look at Cooper and you realize this? Imagine this young person being thrust on a stage. Is it that some people have that? Because a lot of 12-year-olds I meet are really young 12s, and then some 12-year-olds are older.
Well, I left home when I was 15 for good. And I look at 15-year-olds and I'm thinking, how could they possibly leave? Like go to a job and live in an apartment. And I do realize, Billy, what you're saying, because it's not for everybody. And there has to be a certain maturity and drive. I think drive is key in that, having a focus and knowing what you want. Mm-hmm. And so at 12, even though Billy was still living at home, he knew what he loved. That is something you were talking about, what we have in common. I knew from 3 years old what I loved and what I wanted to do. And I've done it ever since. The only difference is now I get to do it with really talented professional people that are like the top.
Was that frustrating as a child to not have that level, or did you just not know?
I don't think I knew, but I also felt at some point, probably in my late teens, I thought success is not being surrounded by imbeciles. That has not turned out to be true. But no, I graduated along. It's not like I was, I didn't look down on anybody. I loved what I did and I knew what I loved. And I didn't, when you're a really little kid, you don't even know what those possibilities are. You don't even know what that is. And I lived in Oklahoma. I grew up in a small town in Oklahoma. So it's not like I was in some mecca of show business where I could go, to dance class 3 times a week. So,
but you did have opportunities.
Not
at least some.
I created my own opportunities.
Oh, see, there you go. And is that really the kind of thing when you talk about love and drive that you want it enough, you'll make your own opportunities?
You know what? How many thousands of interviews have I done over my career? And you know what I just realized? I think I've always been like, God damn it, why didn't I live in New York? Why didn't I live in Los Angeles? Why didn't I have access to these things?
Sure.
I just realized that because I needed to create my own things. I mean, I started writing when I was really young. I was kind of driving my own self and creating things. And I wonder if that's why at this age, at this time, it's always been this way, that instead of being somebody who did grow up in New York and went to the dance class and went to the acting class and went to all these things and was a part of that training, that I was a scrapper from the beginning And therefore, that's probably why I'm a scrapper now. The things that I am most proud of are the things that I have created from the ground up.
Right. Which has been most of your career.
Yeah. I mean, I've been cast in some wonderful things and I've had great recording contracts and but most of the things I've done, like this book, which we're going to talk about, that's from the ground up, like my one-man shows or
your autobiography or making a film of it. I mean, you know, those are things that you have to really have drive.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also for me, I am bored easily. And when I do something like the book, which was a 4-year process, that comes from an initial inspiration. Well, it came from a writer's block and then an initial inspiration and then discipline and dedication. And I get very obsessed. But I also find that I like to try new things all the time. And I find that reinventing myself and now I'm writing this thing. Now, remember that none of these things, Billy, are singular. There's many things happening at the same time.
And they're also, as people will say to me, oh, look, you planned everything so well. And I'm like, it's never a plan. It's great. It's either you have an idea and it works. They should know the 20 ideas that didn't work before the one that did. But the other thing is that because I identify with you so much, is that we say, well, what if this? And most people would say, oh, that would never work. But why not try it and see if it works?
Oh my God, yes. I think one of the hardest lessons we learn as we have some experience is you can't focus on what you believe the outcome should be. You just have to take the action. And when I wrote my first book, Ham, which was a memoir, my dear friend Frank Langella said to me, he loved these essays, and he said, just keep writing. He said, don't think about what it's supposed to do, where it's supposed to go, who's going to buy it, who's going to read it, any of those things. Get out of that and just write.
Because it will paralyze you.
As a creator, as a person, listen, if I was 20 years old and I was doing it, I would totally be doing it just for that joy. But as a person who has made my living from performing and selling and creating and developing, of course it's easy to go to, who's going to buy this? Who's going to want this? What should I go to? What publishing in that case? And it was great advice because it reminded me to just stay in the process. And then the hard work comes. Because you know what, Billy? I always joke and say, how many things am I supposed to be? I'm a singer, I'm a writer, and why am I supposed to be a businessman? Because I don't think I'm a very good one.
But you have to be. I mean, you really have to look out for yourself. And, you know, to whom is given much, much is expected. And I think you've been given an awful lot of talent. And so at least those of us who have followed you, nothing surprises me from you because I have seen you do such a variety of vocal styles and roles. I've seen you do roles that I've talked about this before, and I'll say it again. I so did not see you playing the role of the main player in Pippin. I didn't get it at all. And I went there and it was transformative to me because I saw you in a completely different light. Then when you went into, the Mel Brooks, the producer, I said, oh yeah, he'll be fine this, but you went so far the other way. Then you did the sitcom. Boom. Then, you know, you've done your work with Todd, your pianist, that has opened up your heart and really brings you back to your roots. And to me, each one of those things just, as far as I'm concerned, there hasn't been a misstep, and B, anything that belies the faith that you can do anything. I actually now believe that if somebody said to me, there's a musical, or not even a musical, take music out, a straight play starring Sam Harris's Jack the Ripper, I'd say, oh, Jesus. But I could see you'd probably make it work because you do disappear in the role. You do the work. It may not be the best Ripper. I don't know how much you rip, but you'd be a pretty good Ripper.
Wow. You realize you have been complimenting me for the last 3 minutes, and then at the very end, you had to just lay me out.
Well, you know, it's what I do.
Best Ripper. Let me tell
But
you.
he'd be pretty good. But I will say that in Pippin, to me, you made that role, which is an iconic role, your own, and so different. So the highs and lows, the extremes, we've talked about the stakes as an actor. And to a point where I'm sitting in the audience thinking he's going to have a heart attack at any second because you were having, it was like a mad scene from Lucia. It was like an operatic mad scene. And it was staggering. And then when it turns at the very, very end with the little boy,
right,
shattering. I mean, I actually sat there with chills through that whole scene. And I mean, it was something you only got to do, what, 5 times?
No, we did it. We ran for several weeks, but I think that, I thank you, and I appreciate that, but that has very much to do with the director and the choreographer and the people who allow you, who lead you, and also allowed you to go. I remember when I did Jesus Christ Superstar, and Tony Stevens directed it, and I was doing it with Carl
Anderson.
Yes, and Carl Anderson and Barry. Mother, what's wrong with my head?
Oh, Barry. I don't know Barry.
Yes, you do.
Do I?
He played, listen to me. Goddamn thing.
Should I look it up? Who is Barry?
Barry played the not Herod, the other one.
The king. No, that's Herod.
No, oh my God.
Judas.
No, not Judas. That was Carl Anderson. Anyway, I was doing it with heavyweights who had done the Broadway production, who had done the movie, who had done whatever. And Tony Stevens and I really, really investigated this character. And when I say character, when you're playing something, it is a character.
Oh, Barry Dennen.
Barry Dennen.
Okay, yes, I do know.
Okay,
him.
are you kidding me?
Yes. All right, I'm sorry. With the high notes, yes.
With these guys who have done this, who are amazing, right? Who know the show. And Tony let me and we together really investigate this character in a play whose name happened to be Jesus. And that was throwing out a lot of shit that surrounds that whole image, icon, myth. And we tore it down. We tore it down, and I got to make him a human being who was funny. Oh my God, Jesus could be funny. Who was funny, who was torn, who was lost, who was not just the extremes of the highs and lows of this sort of deity. Couldn't play him as a deity. And I didn't think anybody would follow a deity. They followed a charismatic person who was flawed.
Right.
I had to play him as very flawed. And it was an extraordinary experience, but that, and you're talking about delving into a character and making stakes high, that's because I had a great director. That's because I had someone who let me experiment and try and fail, but also led me to something. And so I'll tell you, anytime you see a really good performance from somebody, it most likely has very much to do with the environment in which they were surrounded when they were creating this role.
Because, and the permission and freedom they were given.
Because very often, I mean, it's the same thing with the producers. I mean, Roger Bart, I've never replaced anybody before that.
Right.
And Roger Bart was brilliant, and he was Tony nominated, and he was so extraordinary.
Yes.
And so often when someone replaces, they want that person to step into those shoes, do what that person
copy.
Do that thing. That's not, I knew they didn't hire me to do that because they wouldn't have hired me. They would have hired somebody else.
Exactly like him.
Exactly like him. They knew that I was going to bring something. But again, Stroman and everybody, the stage managers, everybody allowed me to reinvent. And Gary Beach was so important in letting me reinvent, because that's the other thing. What if he had been this thing like, no, we do this here. No, that's what we did before.
Right, sure.
We got to recreate all of our moments together. So it ain't one person. That's all I'm saying. It ain't one person. It's the environment. It's the director. It's the actors. That's when we're our best, when we are experimenting and supportive in an environment in which we don't feel like we're puppets, but creators.
I remember what you're saying reminds me of one of the stories that Patti LuPone talked about when she did Gypsy. And for the first 2 weeks, they actually rehearsed it like a play. And that was because they had Arthur Lawrence directing it. And he said, we've never done this before, but let's really investigate the characters, because a lot of times musicals, the characters do get a bit of short shrift because they're working on the songs, the choreography, there's a lot of other stuff.
That's right.
And obviously Gypsy is a play first,
right?
Or at least it should be.
Right.
But you just said something which brings me back to your book, and I'll bring up the book again, The Substance of All Things. You said that a good director will give you permission to fail. And one of the things about your book is that you had never written a fiction book. You'd never written a novel. You kind of had to be cajoled into doing it. Did you have to give yourself permission to fail, invest time, and then we may just throw this out?
You know what, Billy? I don't think in terms of that. I don't think of it literally in terms of, well, maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I still believe that if I invest in it, it will work. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how many copies it will sell. I don't know how many people it will touch. But I don't ever think, oh, this won't work, or it might not work. I write it or sing it or create it or play it because I believe it will work. And with this book, it's funny because yes, a novel is an intimidating concept. It's a dark concept. It's so much larger, frankly, than any other writing. And as I said, 4 years in the process. It's more of a personal investment, even more than my memoir, which were very, very transparent personal stories. This is deeper. And the thing about it is, as much as it sounds like a new thing, because I've written plays and musicals and television and all these other things, this was just the next thing for me to try. And I also should tell you that as an actor, that completely informed the experience of writing this.
He's got better people to talk to.
No, I don't, but now you're gone. Where did you go?
I'm still here. I see you.
There you are.
Hello.
Sorry about that. As an actor, it informs my writing a great deal, because as an actor, you put yourself in the schmata of the character,
right?
And you figure
of all the characters in the book.
Well, yes, but you do it one at a time.
Really, you can't go back and forth that easily.
No, I know. I write in stream of consciousness. But when I am in a character or I'm thinking through that character, as an actor, it informs the way that character not only speaks, but sits and walks and smokes and talks, and what their things are, what's around them, their environment. As an actor, you create those things for yourself when you imbue a character with your own personal experiences. And when I'm writing a novel, which is all fictitious, it's all different shades of the author, always. It's always finding that place and the unlikable characters. Because guess what? No character, no human being who is a villain is a villain. They're not a villain. They're not a villain to themselves. They have a purpose. They have an agenda.
They can't be, right?
They can't be. You can't play something on the surface. It's like when I played JoJo in The Life. Who was this Iago villain character?
And yet I loved JoJo. So what says something about me?
But no. I'm saying you play it like this is the hero.
But somebody has to love him. That's, again, it's funny. We just had an Ava Braun joke, and I'm like, okay, but somebody loved Hitler. So, that's got to tell you something.
Hitler loved Hitler.
Yes.
Hitler did not think he was a bad person.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's where you have to start every villain. He's doing it for a reason, and he justifies it. So there's a lot of layers. But
in my book,
yes, so
there are some bad people, but you can't be black and white, and that is very much what the book is about too. There's a line that says nothing, talking about black and white, that the truth is gray and like fog, and fog is hard to see through. And
right.
That's where we live. Nothing is this or that, good or bad. None of it. And
I think it's very simplistic of people to paint people with those broad strokes. So let's tell people very briefly what the book is about, because the premise and the sort of the situation that the main character finds himself in, I think, is really fascinating.
Well, it's set in, there are two stories. One is current, one is 1968 in a small town in Oklahoma, a rural town in Oklahoma.
Right, what you know.
Right, what you know. And the protagonist is a young boy who's 12 years old. His name is Theo Dalton. He is the name of the town. He is the third generation of the founder of the town. They're poor. His mother has died. He was in a horrific accident when he was 6 years old, and his hands are disfigured and maimed and crippled from that accident. He learns from an American Indian mentor who was an outcast also, because Theo is a bullied sort of outcast because of his deformity. And he learns from this Native American outcast that he has the gift to heal through the touch of these disfigured hands. Now, this is a coming of age story about a boy who's 12. And my boy is 12 now.
Yeah.
But he has this gift, and how that's treated in this Bible thumping religious zealotry. And ultimately he is thrown out as the devil's work, and then he is exploited. Then the other story is the older Theo, who is a therapist who comes to terms with his past by working with this very, very damaged, broken woman. And she is funny, and she's acerbic, and she's defensive, and she's so, so broken. This is a story about broken people, and
redemption, though,
and healing, and
healing,
inspiration. But we're all broken, Billy. We're just all broken. It's just that some of us are more broken than others.
Well, and some of us reveal it more than others. Some people are much better at hiding their brokenness.
But when they're hiding it, it still has its effects.
It's got to manifest itself in something. And I think, as a performer, you lay yourself out there on the stage. You always have. Right. I have seen performers, we've both seen performers, who kind of try to manifest emotions and manufacture emotions, and you can always see through it. Although I shouldn't say that, because I talk to people afterwards and will say, oh, I was so moved. And I'm like, they just sold you the biggest load of crap.
You know what? I'm guilty, because I've done shows where I'm like, I'll say to Todd after, oh my God, I was not present. I was never there. That was a horrible show. And somebody would be like, oh my God. And that's because we have technique.
Yeah, right.
When it is real, when it is authentic, it's a whole different level. And that's, well,
that sounds like a very good cue to bring Billy in. So let's bring Billy in. Hold on a second. Hey, Billy. So we're talking about laying your emotions out on stage versus going through the motions and perhaps phoning it in, which...
Oh, wait a minute, Billy.
I didn't say phoning it in. All right.
You just literally said those words.
All right.
So no,
not you, but I didn't.
I've never phoned in one goddamn in my life.
Can I?
But I'm just saying, sometimes it's harder.
Right. I went to a show and I wrote about it in a review that during the intermission, somebody, I'm not going to even say the show, but one gay guy said to another gay guy, and this is only germane to the point. He said, "You think he's phoning it in?" And the guy next to him said, "Phoning it in? He's down the street at the restaurant ordering his appetizers already." And I said, there are sometimes you can tell that in a performance. Billy, have you ever sort of zoned out in a performance that you feel, oh, I tried to connect and I just have something else in my mind?
Yep, without a doubt. And I think the challenge with that is you're having a shitty day, or your manager isn't listening to you, you're having a fight with your significant other, or whatever. The challenge is not to let those things diminish or interfere or deflect your performance. It channel your emotions to the message of whatever you're trying to.
Yes, I think what you're saying is this the difference between those things distracting you or informing you, and that I mean, I can honestly tell you, I've never zoned out in a performance ever. But there are times, like I'll tell you an example. My father died last August. I had a show the day after he died, and I thought, oh my God, this is going to be so emotional. This is going to be so in touch. I'm going to find things I never found. I didn't want to do the show. I wanted to go home to be with my mother, but I'm not going to cancel a show, which is just sad and sick on its own.
I know, but you're an old show girl. I get it.
And it was the most removed show because I think I was so afraid of losing it.
Go there.
Didn't allow myself to go to the in-between. I was afraid if the dam cracked and I didn't want my audience to worry about me. I didn't want them to worry about me.
And they must know, obviously.
Well, they didn't know he had died. But I didn't want to be that fragile. I mean, there are moments of every show I do that are, like you said, that I'm raw and I fall apart or whatever happens. But in that situation, oddly, I didn't phone it in. I didn't zone out. But I realized afterward that I had protected myself to the degree that I was not as emotionally available as I would have been had my father not even died.
Right, of course.
Yeah, there is a difference between phoning in and zoning out. You know what I mean? I never phoned in. I wear my heart on my sleeve too much, and that's, I think, part of a singer that's not just doing it to do it. You're there as a vessel for these words and this message and this, sense of urgency of what you believe this message should, it should be heard to these people. But I never zone out. I've zoned out. I mean, I don't phone in, but I've zoned out, and I've zoned out once and forgot 2 or 3 songs. It was this massive crowd, right? It was the Jump Jubilee in the hills in some godforsaken place in Ohio.
But we love them.
We love them.
We're all available to be
Ohioans.
Great people. I spent a week there one day.
We just love Ohio. It's okay. It's fine.
And I zoned out because I couldn't grasp it, and I forgot some words, and it was not, it was scary. So you can't. You know what I mean? That's always fun.
What's happened to me, I have a career in classical music, as Sam knows, as a conductor, pianist and a conductor. I have gotten to points in the performance, I'm like, but what happened to those other 2 pieces? And sometimes you're so involved in what you're doing, you don't even realize you did it. And that's sort of, I think, the other side of this is that you could be having a terrible day, or you could hate the theater, or just had a fight with a boyfriend, whatever. And sometimes going on stage will completely take you out of yourself, just like it does for the audience.
True that.
Yeah, but I also use, like, what Billy was saying, whatever happened that day, because the truth is, as long as I've been doing this and having a lot of repertoire that I sing regularly or is expected of me, the only way to keep it real is to inform it by what is going on in my life at that time. And then I think, oh my God, that's what that song is about. Well, yes, it is today. And last year it was about something else. But when you're talking about forgetting lyrics, the only time I've ever forgotten lyrics, which is just awful, and this is the perfect example of working from the outside in rather than the inside out, is when I'm outside enough to think, what's next? Oh, I'm fucked. Because it's the whole point is not to think.
So true.
If you're singing, and you're speaking, which is what you're doing when you're singing, it's a mini play, you're speaking, those things are occurring to you at the moment. And so the homework is there, and then you let it come out and find its way. As soon as I start thinking, what's next? I am so screwed. I am so screwed.
Well, I would say as a pianist, at a certain point, the notes are in your hands. The minute you start thinking, what do I play next? You're going to make a mistake. And I tell this to singers too. If you're worrying about a note, which everybody has a note, you've now guaranteed 3 problems: the note before, the note, and the note after, because you're kicking yourself. So if you just go for it, it's only one bad note. But tightening,
some of my best performances have been when I am completely physically screwed. Like I've been sick and I cannot sing because the only thing I can go to is the lyric.
Technique.
Yes, definitely technique, but the lyric. Because if I'm thinking about how I'm going to sound or what's going to come out, I am so screwed. Then nothing is real. I have to go to the lyric. The lyric. It's fascinating because all these things we're talking about, they go the whole gamut of, I've just written this book and it's the same thing. There is a difference between, and maybe it sounds corny, first you start writing the character and then the character starts writing you. And there are times that I will have sat back and think, I don't remember writing that. Or I'm writing and I'm like, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? Oh my God. It's that's the great fun of it. But I am a very quick writer, and then you edit.
Yeah, well, and I think 90% of writing is in the editing. Let me just address that for a second. Writing a weekly column for 25 years next month. If I did not have a deadline,
never.
I would still be working on the first column because it's never perfect. And one of the joys of being a live performer, my doing stand-up, you guys singing, is you can keep refining it. You can keep finding things. Billy, I'm assuming there are songs you have sung since you were really young that you're still finding things in.
Oh my gosh, my very first single was One Voice. And I thought, okay, when I first heard it, we had the record completely finished and they come running in the studio. You're staying a few extra days. We found this, we wrote this song. It's called One Voice. It's now going to be your first single. I heard it. I thought it was awful. Like I said, what are they doing to my career out of the chute? It's awful. It had this little chintzy melody. It wasn't really anything, right? But the message and the content was about finding hope. It's about looking through the world through at that point, a child's eyes. Some kids have, some kids don't. Mom won't watch the news at night. And all of a sudden, here we are 20 years later, and those words mean more now than they did then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they probably, your experience has probably informed the lyrics more as well.
Billy, I would say they mean more now because you have more insight now.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So I get you take the same thing, but because of your life experience and your awareness of your world in a way that you could not have been at that age,
absolutely,
now it has greater meaning and you have more to give because you understand more.
That's right. And I literally had to do what you said, Sam, 15 minutes ago, that I literally had to just be in the moment, not expect, okay, who's going to listen to it, who's going to like it, dig into the content and create the best version of Billy Gilman doing this song that I could do and just let the cards fall as they may. Not look at it as a trajectory of, okay, is the kid's going to like this? Is it going to sell 1 million copies?
Out of your hands.
It's hard to stay out of that, isn't it? I think also once we've had some success and we have sold 1 million copies and we've had that kind of thing or these great reviews or something, then it's very, very hard on the next job and the next record, the next play, the next book to not say, how's this going to do? How's this going to do?
Of course.
And as we grow older, and I'm much older than you, that I would be less vulnerable to that kind of approvability. And I am as a human being. It doesn't define me anymore. My work is what I do more than who I am.
Mhm.
But I will never not read it for the motherfucking review. I always, I
No.
always will, because and it's not, how do I say this? And I really mean this. It's not so much about love me, as it is, I want my work to be embraced. I want it.
Well, because it's a part of you.
Yeah, it's very personal.
I mean, everything we do, the three of us, I think, we're not, I mean, yes, we've all played roles, but what I write and what I do as a stand-up is me. It's me. When you guys sing, you're putting yourselves out there as well. So it's hard not to take it personally, but I've also learned over the years that there is a separation between not liking the work and not liking me, or I'm not for everybody, and that's okay.
Sure.
And that's okay. And and absolutely. And I've seen reporters now going back and thinking, because you see some of the same reporters. Sam, you've been doing it forever. I've been doing it since I was, the Civil War. And, you see some of these people, and then you look at them from a different perspective. And sometimes these very appointed editors and reviewers don't get it. So it might not even necessarily be you. They just don't know how to write correctly and see the whole picture. And that is where I started to instill when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, those years, going on a base level for my audience alone. I know the heart that I bring. Okay, I don't have to second guess my genuine factor. If I come off that stage exhausted, I know I did enough. And that is where if I'm exhausted emotionally, physically, I know I gave that audience or that TV spot all I could give. And if someone found fault in it, oh well.
And that's okay. It's funny. You just said something which reminds me of one of your songs, Billy, one of my favorite songs, which is Coming Home. The first line, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And I think that's got to be, as you grow older, the way you sing these songs and the way you see these words, that maybe at first you say, oh, that's a cute little song. Then maybe it becomes a religious song. Then it becomes a relationship song. It can be so many things.
It literally can be love for carrot cake. I mean, whatever the moment is at the start, whatever it is, it's anything. They all evolve.
And I would think that each of you have songs that you're so associated with your whole career.
Have I sung Over the Rainbow?
Well, I was just going to ask you, right?
You reinvent that song. It's about hope. It's about despair. It's about failure. It's about moxie. I've had to redefine that so many times.
Does it mean a different thing to you every night?
Well, there are only so many motherfucking.
But I mean, could it change night to night? I guess is my question.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Depends on that day.
Right.
I mean, there is a library now to choose from, because I could have done it thousands of times and come up with, there's a new, fresh emotion. But no, how I'm feeling that day. Do I feel triumphant? Do I feel angry? Do I feel desperate? Do I feel solid? Do I feel hopeful? All of those things inform things. And the worst thing an actor can do is try to replicate an emotion.
Never works.
It never works. Oh, I cried here last night when I did this speech, so I'm going to go for that. Never works. Never works.
No.
And what about you, Billy? Same thing?
You have to be in the moment.
Because now you're in a different position, because we're sort of getting you still young, obviously, but you've grown. You are now an adult, but you had the success as a child. When you sing songs that you first recorded as a 12-year-old, is your point of view anywhere near what it was when you recorded those songs?
No. For whatever reason, I got the motive. I got the gist.
Really, even then.
They were. Otherwise, it would never have done what it did. No amount of money. So there was a heart there within the, okay, you be this little boy for 10 minutes and then go off and play. I look back on it and sing these songs that are 20 years old already, and I go, maybe the way I do them now wouldn't work and sell as what they did, or those. You never know. The moment is the moment. But look, singing them now, yeah, and you cannot, like, I'm such a bad when it comes to, Sam, Billy, I'm sure a lot of TV shows will come in and they'll say, okay, you're going to lip to the track or whatever they do.
God, yeah.
And I'm so in the moment. I'm so bad at lip singing. So that shows you that I'm in the moment. I can't phone it in and expect, okay, well, last night I hit that D and I hit it for 10 seconds. The audience is going to expect me to do that tonight.
Right.
Then it's a mind fuck. You know what I mean? You can't, that's done. And you're done. Because when you start to bring yourself to a level of this conscience of, okay, they're expecting, then you start to be in this role that may not be real because you're just riding the wave rather than really surfing.
And as Sam pointed out, technically, the more you're thinking, the more things tighten up, and you're never going to give the performance you want.
No, never. And it's this, and the way we sing, we're not little, like, I don't know. I'm not.
It's always been like, why couldn't I have been James Taylor?
Yeah.
Why couldn't I sit down with the guitar and say,
that's right.
And I've seen rain. No. I have to slip my wrists and sing at the top of my lungs.
And it's very hard. It's very hard for singers like us not to think, okay, they're going to expect that. No. And it's very hard when that's what we do. And all the reviews, the people coming up to you, I always think, okay, I really want, the person to say, and I've had this happen many times. There's a song of mine, Oklahoma. It did very, very well. And it's about a boy, Sam. It's about a boy from foster home to foster home, never realizing he had a dad, a mom, whatever. The dad never knew the kid existed. They meet. He finds his real home. People have not given their kids up for adoption because they heard it on the radio. Those are the stories that I love to hear because it's the message. I'm the catalyst for the message.
Right.
It's not, oh my God, when you went, nah. To me, that's nothing because it's not, that's only the prettiness of it, not the grit.
Okay, I want to give people at home, even though you're singing up a storm, I want to give people at home an example. So I chose an example from each of you, which I think is interesting for two things. First off, because there is no, people will always accuse me. We start getting a little bit in the weeds when we're talking technique. There's no discernible break there. This is all supported voice from both of you. Never goes into falsetto at all. And it's full voice. So first, let's look at Billy for a second.
Oh God.
Walk on, with hope. Hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never
You're cringing.
I had just gotten off of laryngitis. That was in Niagara Falls. I know
it's the Seneca Falls show. Yep.
That was one of those shows where I'm like,
laryngitis.
It's got to be about the larynx. It was like a week or two after, and I'm like, ugh.
But you always remember those ones. Those are the ones that live.
That one.
Oh well, Okay, so now we go to Sam.
You'll never walk alone on Oprah.
It is. It's the same song, of course it is. But because there wasn't a video, I had to add some photos. So I showed more photos of Billy.
Video on YouTube.
Yeah, right. But is there a video of you doing it live?
Absolutely.
Well, I found the audio of you doing it live with the album cover. But anyway, I added my own pictures.
Right after 9/11.
Oh, I didn't do that one. I'm sorry. But anyway, you got a different one. That's okay.
Okay.
Let's modulate. Oh no, here.
Okay, I have something to say. Holy hell with the and Sam. Okay, here, you just did something on that recording, and it brought me back. I mean, your voice is insane. But you were teaching Liza around 2000, weren't you? 99, 2000. You were with her with the Michael Jackson special.
Yes.
What was the song she sang? She sang "You Are Not Alone." Michael's
Right.
"You Are Not." She did that same alone. That's
I messed it off from my own thing.
yes, you did.
But so what?
You found that? Obviously, it's a live performance somewhere.
Yeah, and I think you put it up actually. But
No, I
so
didn't.
here, someone did. All right, but well, I added the photos, because I'm shallow.
Very nice.
And just because I'm showing Sam's body off, I should at least show. There's little Billy Gilman, just getting ready to go out.
I didn't know this was this kind of interview.
I didn't.
And
giving the children in the first hour to striptease.
Oh well, if it's on
the whole thing started with Billy talking about his underwear, so I'm not even
exactly. No, the underwear has come off. And by the way, Billy apparently is no longer a child. He enjoys vodka.
Oh yeah, not on show days, but hey, that was his show day.
But anyway, going back to the singing, your voices have both obviously changed as you've gotten older, and you've managed to maintain the top register, not going into falsetto, keeping it supported. How hard has it been in terms of your old repertoire to sing it today? Sam, let me ask you.
Well, I would say about 5 years ago, Todd and I were, putting things together, and he said to me, "Why don't Sam? You're singing these songs in the same keys that you've been singing them in for 20 years. Why?" Well, because that's the energy, and that's what my muscle knows, and that's what. Blah, 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 blah. And it was that whole thing about the idea that somebody would be disappointed if I did not bleed, and so he said, "No one's going to know." And why should this be something that you're afraid of? Why should you, like you were saying, Billy, why should you be going out there? I'm in my 50s saying, really, do I need to hit a high B? Really, do I need to hold out a long? No, the answer is no, because my voice has gotten lower. It has gotten richer on the bottom. And I remember 100 years ago, I was having this voice lesson with this woman here, and she said, "You will never hit the high F above high C again."
Really?
Tell me no.
I cried. But guess what? I don't need to. I don't need to.
Right. What about you?
One of them is okay for me to lower it. And the second thing is I have so much more to bring to it than I did when I was singing that note.
Well, I've gone through this with classical singers who again, you can't change keys in operas, but some roles you have to retire because you no longer can play an 18-year-old with the coloratura, but maybe you can bring some depth to some other roles. So I think there's an emotional attachment to songs.
What about you, Billy? Are you still singing in all the same keys?
Well, not as the prepubescent child, no. But the thing is with me, I've never been I have the same voice coach I had since I was 7.5 years old, and she was always the one to get me out of the brain. She goes, "You're ignorant to not give your new register service because it's nicer than that screaming. You don't have to. It's pretty. Why are you But the thing with me is my high notes are very easy to hit. It's not hard for me. I'm just naturally a loud singer. So until that day happens where I'm like, that was different. The keys that I do now, of course, they're 2, 3, 4 steps lower than 11-year-old Billy Gilman, but I can, still get up to C and C sharp and do them with ease. So as long as they're easy, I think that's fine. But I switch keys all the time. I switch keys, I'll like one Monday I'll be doing a show and be feeling great. And the next I'll tell my piano player, I'm really not feeling that great. And I don't do anything to this to make someone proud of that note. If I'm having an off day, I'll do it in the key of X to save my throat.
Right.
No audience is worth damaging this. I don't talk to my family during show days.
It's your job.
It's my job. And I always admire
a little dime-sized muscle.
Yeah.
It's a tiny muscle. And, it is as strong as it is because of doing it a long time and the technique. It's still just a little muscle. And it has to be baby.
When I was
I watched so many videos of the two of you last night, and what I realized was both of your voices today are richer and have more color and texture than, the purer but more innocent sound of younger, although Sam always sounded like, an old black woman. But very rarely does somebody come on stage.
To me the other day, my set said, "Why do so many people call you a black woman?"
Because
I still get hello, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, oh, well, I think that it's but again, it's worked for both of you, obviously.
Oh, I wish my career then was with this voice now.
Really? Isn't that interesting?
Oh yeah, because I can do so much more. There's more power. There's more notes. I had the voice that was Stradivarius. It was only like 5, 6 notes. I couldn't hit.
Oh, really?
It was a very small as a kid. Now it's all over the world. It's so much easier and more fun to sing now than it was then.
See, now the two of you have something in common, which is in verse. Sam, you started out, you got your big break on Star Search, and it really catapulted you to national attention. And there's a video that has like all of the appearances back to back, which is extraordinary to watch. Last night I'm like, I can't, I have work to do. But Billy, you sort of started big and you didn't go that route. And yet a couple of years ago went on to the Voice, which I thought was an extraordinary thing to do because you had reinvented yourself. You were like a different artist, and why not expose it? But I'm curious, both of you, from a competition standpoint, how hard was that every week and sort of trying to show a new side to yourself and keep that momentum going? Sam, let me ask you first.
I was 22, so I don't think I was nervous, and I never picked my material before I had won to the next one because I didn't
really.
No, but at that point, it was sort of a great time for me because I had a really extraordinary mentor director who had given me a sense of really being honest and authentic on stage, and combined with a repertoire from playing every dump and dive everywhere. So it gave me that. But I think if you're talking to both of us, Billy had a great deal more at stake because he was already a proven factor. He'd already had some success, and it takes a lot of guts to go onto a talent competition
and be judged.
Like saying, I need this.
Mm-hmm.
I need this exposure. I need for someone, because if you don't do well, then what does that mean? The stakes are way much higher than a 22-year-old kid that nobody had ever heard of. So
you had freedom.
I had a different kind of freedom. And I think, Billy, you had yourself that was the new you, which you knew what you had. But there's a lot more psychologically at stake, saying, it's like when my friend Allison Porter went on The Voice.
My girl. She had
been a star. I love Allie.
Right.
She had been a child star. She had had different successes and things. And she went on saying, you know what? It didn't work out. And so now I'm here again, and this is me now. And I'm sober this many years, and I have 2 children, and I have no money, and I'm this and that. And she went on and said, this is me now. Right. Remember Curly Sue? Bye-bye.
Yeah.
So I really admire that.
Yeah,
I admire
Billy.
that you did
Billy,
that.
how hard a decision was it for you to do it, and whose idea was it?
It was hard.
Yeah, I bet.
It was rough. They
It's
asked.
not you, though.
It was asked for 4. I was asked for 4 years. And I
Really?
said, no, I don't need this. I don't want this. I don't need this. I could make and I was making a living doing smaller venue, but fine. I was totally in a lane where whatever. But something in my brain kept telling me, why not just try it? I have so much more to say. I have so much more to give. I don't necessarily watch these or believe in these shows, but if I'm supposed to be doing one, I like the Voices approach where it's more family. It's not as judgmental as some of the other ones.
Right.
But the fight that was really the fight was not America. I knew that if I just were me and opened my guts and heart out to people, someone would tag on and bite and see, okay, he's not really just singing. He means something. It's not just all smoke and mirror. Well, the toughest part was the contestants and trying to I had to fight my way onto the show, and then I had to fight for the thought of, okay, I deserve to be here just as much as you because it's a new life, it's a new voice, it's a new everything, and so many of the contestants didn't find that fair. So there was a fight.
I would think you've got both sides. You've got some contestants thinking, "Oh, he's got this name and he's got this advantage," and other people have to realize this is going to be a disadvantage because now you have to prove, okay, Mr. Big Billy Gilman, what the hell do you have to show? So
absolutely.
And which way did you feel you came out of it? Did you feel that you came out of it winning those people over?
Yes, I think so. I think, the more you just do you, and if it comes from a place of sincerity and this is all I am, and this is the best version of what I can do, and this is the best thing that I'm supposed to be doing, they're going to start to see that repetition cannot be fake. It's just impossible unless you're people running the government. So, it was very difficult, but I think, there's always fights in every platform, always struggles in every platform. So, it's 6 of one kind, half dozen of the other, I think. You know what I mean? Maybe I'm wrong, but I just think,
do you look back at it thinking, I'm glad I did it? Was it a positive experience for you?
Absolutely, because
what did you get out of it? That's actually the question.
So I didn't learn anything of how to perform or I learned how to really take care of my throat. I did learn that. But what I learned was the intuition and my gut and how right it was. And I never learned to trust it because I was always told what to do. And now here I am singing these songs on this platform that I used to only sing in the mirror and go, God, I just wish they could hear me sing this one song. The world doesn't even know the fullness of what I can give. And so being able to do that with an orchestra and with great songs and I was in heaven. That was my takeaway, was to be able to finally it's like the end of Seabiscuit, let him run his race. I finally got to run my race. So I was totally at ease with it and at peace.
Sam, you got to perform on the
biscuit. Sorry,
Sam, you got to perform with this great orchestra on Star Search and really explore a wide repertoire. Was that kind of the good side for you as well, that you got to really perform under professional circumstances with this band?
Oh, absolutely. But also in the difference between those shows then, that was new and raw, and we got to choose everything ourselves. I got to choose.
Oh, wow.
There was no stylist. I wore my funky clothes. I sang what I wanted, and some of them, and so I sang original songs. I sang obscure songs. Mm-hmm. I sang some, and so it was different because I think the ones today is that this is the catalog. These are the things, and these are the circumstances, and yes, you have an influence, but we're going to dress you, and we had, because they didn't really know, because it was kind of, young ignorance. I think we had more freedom, but absolutely, and also, because it was new, it was the first season of that show,
right?
Things don't air till 4 or 5 weeks after, so I had started my run.
Oh, so you weren't live.
We were not live.
Wow.
And I hadn't, so I'd won 4 or 5 or something before it started airing. And I was playing this 50-seat theater called Theater on Melrose Avenue with 3 backup singers called the International Pancakes. And I was doing the show that had become this cult thing. You know, it was only 50 seats, so you couldn't get in. And I had run it for like 3 or 4 months, maybe longer. And so we were doing this thing at 11 o'clock at night. I'm in the comfy little black box, singing every night, and then taping this show. And then all of a sudden, you know, everything changed on a dime. You know, these gorgeous, super shiny floor shows, which they call it now. It's different level of production, man. It's a different level of everything. And so there was a sort of innocence having been on the first season of that, because they were figuring it out. I don't think they would have put me on the 3rd season.
Huh.
Because I was too weird.
No.
Let me ask you, Sam, because Billy was in this position. Say somebody like The Voice came to you and said, Sam Harris, would you like to compete on this show?
No.
Well, that was me for 4 years.
No.
So then I sat down and I had meetings. I had the past presidents of record labels, management that I used to have. I held every meeting imaginable, and everyone kept saying, you know what? If you feel that that's your vehicle, what have you got to lose? Everyone said that. What have you got? Okay. You know,
we've got some.
Why would I do that?
Well, just, you know, well, that would be the question. Why would you do it? If there wasn't anything in it for you and you didn't want to. But obviously, if you would
never, ever at this time in my life, in my career, at this age, put myself up for scrutiny by people who I'm better than.
You'll see, but isn't that great that you've gotten to that point that you know? We do have
59 years old, you guys. I'm not 32.
All right.
Or 20.
When you were 32, would you have done it?
I don't know. I doubt it. I don't know. But I think it's great. I mean, I think that's what I'm saying.
No, I think it's one of the most fascinating things I've ever seen, actually, because I thought that it was the most ballsy thing to do when you are. I mean, I remember when Melinda Doolittle went on Idol, the crap she got because she had worked as a professional backup singer for 1 million people and had done demos, and it didn't go anywhere. And they're like, well, she's a pro. And I'm like, she's here like you are.
Exactly.
I don't know what to tell you. So I thought when Billy did it, I said, can't be Billy Gilman.
I admired it so much.
And the funniest
for you.
I'm sorry?
I think it really paid off for you. And I think it let us see you now and who you are.
As a young man.
That's right. And the thing is, one of the craziest thing about the entire thing, I found out later, so I couldn't bitch about it because, listen, I don't keep my mouth shut.
I learned.
the guy that won had a Sony Motown record contract 9 months before he went on the show.
Say, there you go.
And yet I get the shit, but that's fine.
Yeah.
I have shoulders; I can handle it.
I just want to mention some messages. Richard J. Alexander says hi to both of you and says Billy's a big Barbara fan. I'm not sure which of us. We both are. I assume all 3 of us are big Barbara.
Billy, did you come with Richard J. to my
show? I've come with him to a lot of shows. At which one? No, not 54 Below. No.
No. Other Billy Gilman. Did you come with Richard J.?
I don't remember that.
Last year to 54 Below.
No, that wasn't me. Unfortunately.
Okay. Richard J. has a lot of hot young gay friends.
I love Richard J.
I do too. So since he brought up Barbara, any Barbara story that you want to share with us, Sam?
Well, she was a stalker for me for a while. I was singing at Peter Matz's memorial, who was
as one does.
He did her first 7 records, and I did 2 records with him, a standards record and a Broadway record. It was a brilliant experience.
And you did hair with him.
I did hair with him, but he orchestrated, 2 of my records, and they're great records. and he's my friend, and I loved him. Anyway, so I was singing his memorial. I flew in. I was doing the producers, and I flew in to do it. And Barbara was there, of course. And so she was like, I need to meet him. I need to meet him. I'd never met her. And she said, I can't believe I don't know you. And I literally said, where have you been, in a cave? And, and so we laughed and we had this great time. And then she had to get every record and every video. And could I give her this? And could I give her that? So when we took those two records and we put them together in one thing,
Mm-hmm.
I said to Richard J, I said, do you think she would do like a quote, liner notes or something? And he said, she's never advocated another singer ever. Only politicians, never another singer. And I said, well, why not? And he said, yeah, why not? So I asked, and she said yes. And she wrote this beautiful thing on the back for my new record. And
I am not jealous.
I've seen her a few times, and she's, she's Barbara freaking Streisand. It doesn't get more extraordinary than that.
Yeah,
Billy, do you have a Barbara
I just
story?
sent her my book, by the way. I just sent her my book.
Oh, all right.
That's
Billy, do you have a story about Barbara at all?
Well, she was the reason I started singing. I saw the 94
Really?
concert, and that was it. Something went, I can do that too. And then my grandparents were hearing me belt out Happy Days Are Here Again, and they're like, okay, the other grandkids aren't doing that, so this is it. I was honored to be invited to see Timeless, her show, in September of 2000. And then Richard J was so kind enough. Funny story about The Voice. I get this phone call. Was it a phone call? I don't know how it started. I can't remember, but I was doing The Voice, and they have you on lockdown. I don't know what they did during Star Search days in the beginning, but they have you on lockdown. You have to write in the time you walk out to get a coffee, you time back in, all this lockdown measures. By 11 o'clock at night, you're in your room. You can't go out. I get this phone call that I'm invited to a preview of her mini tour that she was doing in 17, 16. And I said, you mean to tell me I'm invited with a small amount of people to see the love of my life, and I might not be able to go because I'm in lockdown for the show and I'm 20 minutes away from the Staples Center? Yeah. So I went right to the producer. I went, I got this really amazing request, and I just don't think you can say no. Lo and behold, I got to go. So it was a great memory.
Okay, so then we have been in the same room because I was there as well.
Oh, fantastic.
So there you go. I was there with Jennifer Lewis, of course. Why wouldn't I have been, Sam? As Sam knows, I always show up with Jennifer Lewis. I want to just mention, Billy, you've got a song, Soldier, which is out. It's been out for a while, but I just want to promote.
Yeah,
yeah, I know. I was just going to say. And, again, also engaged. Here you are with your fiance.
Oh,
so freaking cute, both of you. I can't stand it. Do you have wedding plans at this point, or are you just waiting?
We're just waiting. Yeah, that's all we can really do right now. We had a great year going forth, and that kind of stopped, but it stopped for all of us. So listen, I'm just grateful to be, in a great situation with my family, and everyone's healthy at this moment. It's the baby steps that mean the most right this minute. So we're just hanging on for the time being.
We never talked about, we're running out of time. We never talked about you coming out, but I think that really somebody like Sam Harris coming out and people like him paving the way probably made it a lot easier for you and really gave you, a sort of a template that, okay, it's safe for me to do it. And this is how I should be, just open and honest.
Absolutely. And, it was very scary. Obviously, each story is different from one another's, and that's what makes it unique and a beautiful mosaic, hopefully. But that's, and when in my shows, there's a point in them that I say, I hope to instill, I do a few prides a year when we're allowed to have concerts. And I don't hear it as often as I think we should hear it, but I say to the younger generation, we're here because of so many pioneers. Stonewall, the 51st anniversary was last month. We have to really pay homage to the people that died, and they still are dying in certain areas of the world. And some of these kids take it for granted. And I try to, in a nice way, where they don't go, oh, you're an ass, try to instill that gratuitous factor to how amazing of a life we are now able to have, and that's part and parcel.
I'm really glad that you said that, because there is an attitude among a younger generation of gay men and women that are like, of course I have equal rights. I should have equal rights. I'm a human being. What's the big deal? I'm like, when I grew up, it was illegal. It was jailable. It was small and secretive and horrifying. The idea that I could ever in a million years be married and have a child was not even something that I could have imagined to wish for. The fact that this has happened in my lifetime, and I'm in that generation, man, because
and you've seen all the steps.
Kids,
that's
right. Didn't have that past. So there's a lot to be grateful for, and a lot of people that have forged this path.
Yeah, and I think that on one hand, what Billy said, you know, it's kind of lovely that people don't even give it a second thought. Of course, I should have these rights because I was born into a time where I was so lucky to have it. But remember how you got it, and remember how easily it can be taken away.
Let me say one more thing about this, and then I know we need to go. My son was born in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
That was the year that it was legal for us to get married. We've now been together 25 years. He was born in 2008. Barack Obama was president for the first 8 years of his life. And I thought, oh my God, my son is born into a new world, a new life of involvement and progress. The first Black president. His parents are married. He has 2 dads. The next president is going to be a woman. What a gift. And then it happened.
Yeah.
It does come back. It does fall back. And the difference between us as gay men is that if you're Black or you're Jewish or you're whatever, you have ancestors who tell you what your culture is. You came from this. You are 7th generation slave. You are this, you are that. Your parents, we came over during World War II and we escaped. All your relatives are dead. Whatever it is, we don't have that.
Right.
We don't have parents who were gay. So it is incumbent upon us to pass down our own history.
That's right.
It's a very different thing. It's a very different thing. And now I'm off that soapbox because I have to go ice cream with my child soon.
And I just want to say that how quickly it can be taken away. When California legalized gay marriage, that's when Prop 8 started to take the rights away. And I was on stage hosting Gay Pride in LA, and we were told to tell people to get out and vote. I was one of those people. They'll never take it away. We've got it. It's here. Don't worry about who cares? P.S. Lost the right. So you do have to stay vigilant and protect the rights you have. So
you do. You know, complacency should not be in today's world. That's for sure.
No, you can't afford it. That's true. And
you learned anything. I'm glad you do that, Billy. It's important. It's important from your voice.
Well, I think that really you've got 3 different perspectives here, and I think Billy speaks for really the people who are going to change the world. So it is up to them, because I'm tired.
I speak for the tired and the old.
Yeah, you and me both.
And I've literally paid taxes since I was 8. I can say in some form I'm tired.
Oh my God, that's so not fair. Guys, I love you both. This has been so much fun. We've run long, but I adore you. We will do this again some other time. I want to thank you both. Sam Harris, my old friend who I adore.
It was so great to see you, Sam. It's been a while. Great.
This is so great.
My new good friend, Billy Gilman. Thank you.
And Billy, I will tell you that the book.
Yes, tell me the book. Here it is. Let me just show it again.
Today, July 1st.
Yes.
The reviews are rolling in.
Here it is.
And it's Amazon.
Substantive all things.
There's an ebook and a print. And it's my favorite, most proud of work ever I've done.
And I hope you write more.
Oh, I will.
All right, good. And Billy, hopefully you're going to be able to get back to performing soon.
I know we have so many songs in the pipeline and movie and videos to direct, and we lost a lot of shows, but they'll come back they're rescheduled. So we just all have to be safe and healthy. We'll get through it.
That's number one. You know, that's what we said about wearing masks. It's the 4th of July weekend, guys. Enjoy the weekend. Be safe. And,
I adore you. You're fabulous. And I love you.
You know I adore you. Thanks, Sam. Sam, I'll talk to you soon. And Billy Gilman, my new best friend, thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. This was a treat.
All right, bye, guys. And everybody else watching, thank you for watching Billy Masters Live. I know I tried to keep it to an hour and a half, and here we are at an hour 45. What can I say? Next week, we're going to continue with singers. I'm not going to tell you who they are, but we've got singers coming up Tuesdays and Thursdays, 3 p.m. Do not miss it. And remember, we are Billy Masters. If we're here, we're live. Have a good weekend, and please take care of yourselves. Bye-bye, guys.